What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video. It is the 20th, around this time, the 28th year anniversary of the Donkey Kong Country series. You guys already know how much I love this franchise so much. Ignoring Mario, this is my favorite Nintendo franchise of all time for a good reason. And I haven't really made a video talking about how much I love the Donkey Kong Country series. And I'm going to talk about all five of them: Donkey Kong Country 1, Donkey Kong Country 2, and Donkey Kong Country 3. And Donkey Kong Country Returns, and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Boy, that's going to be a lot to go through, but you guys wanted this, so I'm going to do it. Let's do this. Alright, so let's start this off with Donkey Kong Country 1, one of the earliest SNES titles. Basically, when Donkey Kong started off, basically not, well, okay, it's debatable. There's some theories that this Donkey Kong is Cranky Kong, but other times it actually isn't or something. It's weird on both sides. And both sides could have a point, though. It's really hard to tell. Depending on your perspective, it doesn't matter. But yeah, the Donkey Kong that actually wears a tie, this Donkey Kong right here, got to start on the SNES. And I can say right now that this is definitely one of the most interesting. Oh yeah, I guess I should say this, that I never really grew up with this game or any of the SNES Donkey Kong Country games. Surprising. How did I start with Donkey Kong? Well, I started this back in the Wii U era when I wanted to try out these games because Donkey Kong is my favorite character to play in spin-off titles, in Mario spin-offs, besides Rosalina. And I always wanted to try the series, and back when I played on Wii U, these games blew my expectations high, honestly. Let's talk about the first Donkey Kong Country. You know, it's a platformer. I mean, it's not much to say. You swing on vines, you go through barrels, you battle against the Kremlings, of course, and just different level design. Also, just the way it looks. I normally don't talk about how games look because obviously the gameplay matters the most, but looking at Donkey Kong Country, even all these years later, it's just amazing. It just looks amazing, honestly. Just this art style and then the Donkey Kong Country series just so damn good, and I just love the music. Well, we can't talk. Of course, I gotta talk about the music. It's god tier. Donkey Kong Country music never misses with their soundtrack. It's just amazing soundtrack. You know, the main one, Jungle Hijinks, like, you know, King of Swing. You know, those songs. Those are easily like most iconic ones for sure. And Funky's Flying By, of course. Oh yeah, I should talk about the other characters as well. Funky Kong, which runs a flying by. You have Candy Kong, which is DK's girlfriend, I think what it is. Although DK kidnaps Pauline at some point, so which isn't Donkey Kong. But yeah, not much to say. I don't really have any problems. It just perfected the platforming. You know, Super Mario World is a great game. Don't get me wrong. It's my favorite 2D Mario game of all time. But Donkey Kong Country, I feel like clears, if I'm crazy, but yes, Donkey Kong Country clears all the 2D Mario platformers. It's just such a great experience to play. And of course, the villain of the game, King K. Rool. King K. Rool, the battle is tough, but it's still an iconic fight and theme to do. It's just amazing, honestly. And also the bonus levels, and also the ammo buddies, just to list a few. There's just a lot of stuff to the very first Donkey Kong Country game that actually performed really well. I heard it was rushed at the point, which is why the bosses repeat themselves, which is probably the only flaw in the game from what I hear. But otherwise, Donkey Kong Country 1 is an excellent, amazing SNES game that I think everyone needs to at least try once. So yeah, definitely a godlike game. I guess I should also mention that DK and Diddy, why you switch it between these two characters. Well, I didn't even mention that. The Kremlings took all the bananas. Yeah, DK and Diddy have to deal with them. DK is a bit slower to control, but he usually is the best to kill out the big Kremlings. And Diddy is usually a little quicker, but it's harder to take down the big enemies. So yeah, there is a difference. Although I'm definitely more of a DK guy, I think Diddy's also pretty useful as well. So it doesn't matter which one you're playing. It doesn't really matter for me, honestly. So yeah, but that's how you get good. And these games are hard, at least your first time. You're gonna expect a lot of deaths throughout these games. So yeah, that's the first Donkey Country game. Yes, it's a fantastic game, amazing. Everyone needs to give it a go. Remember there was a sequel though? Yeah. Alright, next up we have is the sequel to the original Donkey Kong Country that came out 1 year later, Donkey Kong Country 2. Diddy's Conquest. At first, I thought this was Diddy Kong's Quest, but it says Diddy's Conquest, which I guess I can understand the little pun, because this time, DK got kidnapped. Wow, my favorite video game character got kidnapped. And it's up to Diddy Kong to save DK. And teaming up this time is a character that debuted in this game known as Dixie Kong. Basically, Dixie Kong can use her hair to basically fly. It's so broken, pretty much fly. You can pretty much glide downwards and make it to high areas that you couldn't really reach, honestly. So yeah, Dixie Kong is pretty useful, in my opinion. I do like using Dixie a lot. I find it a bit tricky to roll sometimes, but maybe that's just me, I guess. So yeah. So this game, this is regarded as the best Donkey Kong Country title ever. And if I'm going to be honest, I actually agree. This is my favorite Donkey Kong game of all time, honestly. This one really blew my expectations. I was unsure if I was going to enjoy it, to be honest. I guess the lack of DK was probably the reason. Can you blame me, guys? That was a different time. But honestly, when I played it, I just couldn't put the controller down. It's just that great. The Kremlings are there. There's some new enemy designs. There's this whole theme of levels is pirate theme. You know, different pirate ships and stuff. Pirate themed levels. You have the forest levels. They're amazing. Of course, the music. Bramble Brass theme is god tier, and Snaky Chanty is a great ass theme, especially, you know. Yeah, and then what else is there? Like the water levels, although I'm indifferent with some water levels, the themes are amazing. I love the secret levels they added. There's just so much I can talk about with Donkey Country 2, and the bosses are, besides the fifth one, are all, well, actually in some ways, but all the bosses are actually different, unlike the first Donkey Country game, which was probably the only problem with the first game, despite being amazing. But yeah, there are different bosses, and the music, oh my god, I can talk about the music all I want, honestly, because the music is just so good. There's just so many tracks I love listening to. Is a reason why I think this Donkey Kong game is themed as the best one, with the whole pirate theme. It just feels like I don't usually use this term often. I think this is like the perfect 2D platformer for me, honestly. It's just that amazing. This is probably my favorite 2D platformer of all time. Probably my favorite game of all time, too. Oh, hold up. So yeah, of course, there's still the same banana coins to collect, Kong layers to get some lives and stuff like that. There's still a lot of stuff for 100% requirement. Oh, I should talk about the final boss as well. This is against Captain K. Rool, which his theme is godlike. Suits him pretty well. I love the boss fight, despite I don't even think any of these can be difficult, to be honest. Maybe it's because I played these games so many times. So yeah, I really love Donkey Kong Country 2, guys. I just love it so much. It's just that 2D platformer that just blew my expectations, and it's just my favorite Donkey Kong game of all time. So yeah, I don't have much else to say, really. This is basically my favorite Donkey Kong game of all time. The bonus levels, I just love the music. And yeah, that's just why I see the appeal of why this Donkey Kong game is the best one, and I don't think that many people would disagree if this was my personal favorite. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's Donkey Country 2. And then they made the third game, which isn't really talked about all that often. I wonder why. Alright, and the last Donkey Kong Country game for the SNES, known as a game that I don't really see talked about in the same conversation as the others, is known as Donkey Kong Country 3 Dixie's Double Trouble. Even though the title makes no sense, because aren't you in double trouble in the first two games? It's probably me. But anyway, Dixie's Double Trouble, what's the gimmick with this? Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong get kidnapped. And now it's up to Dixie to save the day with her cousin, I guess, known as Kiddy Kong. I have seen interesting opinions with Kiddy Kong, and I never, to be honest, I don't get the hate for him other than... yeah, that, I guess. He's just more of like a baby-ish? I don't know. Regardless, this was, besides Donkey Kong Land 3 and the Donkey Kong Country games on the GBA, Kiddy Kong made no appearance whatsoever. Maybe for the best? I don't know. But yeah, Kiddy Kong now joins Dixie, and he's pretty much like DK in a way, except he can roll on the, basically he can roll on the water this time, so that's pretty nice. But yeah, I prefer playing Dixie for obvious reasons. So I have seen interesting opinions. That's one of the criticisms I hear with Donkey Country 3. And if I'm gonna be honest, even though I love this game a lot as the other two Donkey Country games on the SNES, this is probably my least favorite of the SNES games, honestly. I don't know, I don't really play this one often. I don't think it's because of Kiddy Kong, but also because of the level design. Most of the level design... Oh, hold up. There's a lot of interesting level design here. Have fun with water levels, because that's where you're going to be getting quite a lot. There's some interesting rides and stuff like that. A few levels with, like, gimmicks, like a shark chasing you. You have mice you gotta deal with. You have a race to deal with. You have lightning level. I hate that level, by the way. So, yeah, most of the levels are kind of gimmicky in their own ways. Some of them are interesting, so that's probably why... I'm kind of, like, the level design, I'm like, it's not too bad in this game, but definitely a bit too much for me, I guess. I don't know, but regardless, that's really the only... I don't really have much problems. And also the boss fights as well are still great, even if they're not... I don't know if not memorable is the term, honestly, because they're really not as talked about as the other ones, at least from my experience. And the music, still great. The water theme is nice. I love the I like the other themes. It's just not as talked about as Donkey Country games, because this game actually came out near the end of the SNES's life. So it's understandable why this one doesn't get as talked about as the other Donkey Kong Country games. So that's kind of the reason why. And yeah, but otherwise, I still love this game, even if it's my least favorite of the SNES games. I still love it, honestly. Nowhere near a bad game at all. So yeah. It's just some of the level design I'm kind of different with compared to the other country games. Because at least some of them, like in 2, even if they did have the whole gimmicks and stuff, at least made sense. But 3, I don't know. It just throws in whatever they want, I guess. And some of the bosses, like, kind of different with. But regardless, it's still a fantastic game. I guess I should talk about the ending. Now you have to fight Baron K. Roolenstein. Yes, that's the name. And the final boss. And yeah, it's really nice. Definitely nice catchy theme for sure. So yeah, nothing much to say about that. But after doing that and the bonus levels, you save Donkey and Diddy, and yeah, that's the game. Donkey Country 3 is still a fantastic game, but it is definitely my least favorite of the SNES Donkey Country games. So yeah. And besides DK64, this was the last Donkey Kong game, main Donkey Kong game by Rareware, and in case you're unaware, they were the ones involved in the Donkey Kong Country series. And besides DK appearing in Mario spin-off titles and some interesting spin-offs of his own, he hasn't really been that much... He hasn't really been much of a big... It was a weird limbo for Donkey Kong in the early 2000s, so... What were they gonna do? Well, get Retro Studios involved to make probably my first Donkey Kong game ever. Alright, now we're going to be talking about my first Donkey Kong game I ever played, Donkey Kong Country Returns. This was one of my first games I ever played, and this is where my Donkey Kong Country journey basically started. This reboot Donkey Kong Country installment. This time, there's no crocodiles anywhere, because the devs didn't want crocodiles involved. So... yeah, I guess we gotta try something, but hey, I guess we didn't want them to, I guess appearing them too often would be stale. We gotta try something a little bit different. Oh, let's just see how it goes. First things first, let's talk about the plot. The enemies known as the Tikis take all of DK's and Diddy's bananas, and it's up to both of them to get their bananas back. So it's basically the plot in the first Donkey Kong Country game, except now it's the Tikis doing it instead of the crocodiles. And I have seen interesting opinions with the Tikis, and to be honest, I'm not sure how I feel about them. I am very neutral with them. I wouldn't say they're bad enemies, they just seem a bit there compared to like what Tropical Freeze did, which we'll talk about in a bit. And the gameplay is also, we still have the rolling, we still have throwing barrels, you still have the bonus levels, you still have the stuff that's known for Donkey Kong Country. There are obviously different mechanics and stuff, like there's obviously different mechanics. Diddy, now you have Diddy on your back, and he used a jetpack to basically reach high spots and stuff like that. And you also have extra hits, because just like in Donkey Kong Country, the original ones, you only had 2 health with each Kong. And now in this game, having DK and Diddy together, you'll have 4 health, or more if you buy stuff from the shop to get some extra health, which... more power to you if you do it, but I just never do it. And the collectibles are interesting. There are Kong letters just like the original Country games, but there's also puzzle pieces which unlock different images. And you need, if you want to get 100%, yeah, have fun finding the puzzle pieces because they're hidden in interesting spots. That's why I use Squawks to find them if you're really struggling finding the puzzle pieces, which I still do. So, yeah. And it's also because if you get all the Kong letters in each level, you have a temple level, which you do. Play all of them in each of the 8 worlds in this game to unlock a secret level near the end. And yeah, that's basically that. And oh yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, let's talk about the actual controls. But otherwise, the controls is still Donkey Kong Country. Perfected that 2D platforming perfectly. If you are okay with motion controls, that's where the problem comes. That's one of the criticisms with this as well. If you don't like motion controls, which I don't mind motion controls, I don't really care to be honest. It may not be a game for you because you gotta shake your Wiimote to ground pound, to break stuff, and also unlock passages and stuff like that. But yeah, that's really the only flaw. And also to shake, to roll and stuff. It's definitely, I can understand why this is themed as like almost everyone's least favorite Donkey Kong Country title. I can't know if it's my least favorite, because on one hand, I grew up with this game and I played it a ton, even though it is very, very difficult to 100%. Even though I don't think any Donkey Kong Country game is that hard for me, to be honest. But on the other hand, Donkey Kong Country 3 has King K. Rool, and there's no King K. Rool in sight. So it's really hard for me to tell if this is actually my least favorite Donkey Kong Country game, despite how much I love it, honestly. Just the Tikis are just enemies I'm not sure how I feel about. And, yeah, but otherwise, besides that, there's still the normal. The music is nice and catchy. There's definitely some great things, especially the Rocket Barrel theme. The Rocket Barrel theme is by far one of my favorite themes, which is the gimmick they added in Donkey Kong Country Returns. There are rockets in Donkey Kong Country 3, but not in the same way as this game, which, yeah, Donkey Kong Country Returns rocket themes are godlike. And I also love the bosses as well, so there are different bosses, so definitely at least something. And they're really the soundtrack is really catchy. I don't know how anyone can say some of the soundtrack isn't as, I don't know, like, I don't see it talked about often, but yeah, the soundtrack is really good. So yeah, all right, you get to the Tikis. You beat Tiki Kong, I believe that's his name, right? DK gets launched up into the air, and you want to know what he does near the end? He punches the moon out of the sky! This shocked me as a kid, honestly, because I didn't think DK would ever do something like this. This is probably the moon from the Mario universe, or whatever you call it, and not an actual, I don't know if he can punch a real moon, but the fact he could do this makes me realize how powerful Donkey Kong is. But yeah, it didn't crush his island though, so that's a little interesting. But yeah, still impressive either way that DK can punch the moon out of orbit like that. So yeah, after you do that, you save all the bananas, and that's the game. After you beat the bonus level, if you want to. So yeah, Donkey Kong Country Returns is still an amazing game, but I can't blame anyone for thinking that's their least favorite due to the enemy designs and stuff like that. But otherwise, it still meant a lot to me as a child, so yeah. Alright, one more Donkey Kong game, here we go. Okay, and the final Donkey Kong Country game, at least at this recording, that we're going to be talking about right now, known as, this came out in 2014 on the Wii U, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Yeah, we're going to be talking about this game. I mean, this is talked about plenty of times, but you know I have to talk about this because it's easily one of my favorite games of all time. Well, let's start off with the plot. DK, Diddy, Dixie Kong, and Cranky Kong all celebrate Donkey Kong's birthday until a balloon flies off and enemies show up, known as the Snowmads. And DK, Diddy, and the others get blown away by the snow all the way back to new areas. And it's up to them to go back to DK Island and stop the Snowmads. And also stop the place from snowing. So yeah, that's the story of Tropical Freeze. And I can definitely say that this is basically Donkey Kong Country Returns, an improved version. Because 1, you don't have to be forced to use a Wii Remote. Thank God. And 2, you can play other characters. It's not 4 players though, but it's definitely you can have more options. Diddy Kong works the same in Donkey Kong Returns. Use your jetpack to basically high places. Dixie Kong uses her hair to reach higher places easily, probably my favorite Kong to use, honestly, in the game. And a Cranky Kong, which uses his cane to bounce off spikes to reach certain stuff. So, yeah, definitely a really useful Kong. Not sure about him. I don't really use him much, but he's definitely pretty useful and stuff like that. So, yeah. And, yeah, this is basically Donkey Country Returns, but just improved, honestly. The level design is fantastic. The music is fantastic. The bosses are great. And no repeats at all. No, like, you know, bosses that are similar, just in different ways. There's none of that. And, yeah, there's just so much that Tropical Freeze does so much better than Returns. Not to say Returns is bad at all, but Tropical Freeze is just, I mean, yeah, Tropical Freeze is just a fantastic 2D platformer. If you say this is your favorite Donkey Kong game, I kind of won't blame you, honestly. The Snowmans are definitely better designs, in my opinion. It's not the crocodiles, but it's still great, enemy designs I prefer over the Tikis. So, I can appreciate this a lot, honestly. So, yeah. Also, we can swim again. I forgot to mention Donkey Country Returns. There was no swimming anywhere for some weird reason. Except you have an air mirror this time, which is probably my only downside with the game. But otherwise, it's still... Donkey Country Tropical Freeze is a fantastic game. And, you know, playing extra Kongs. And there's no Animal Boys other than Rambi, but still... That makes up to playing as extra Kongs, which definitely wasn't my biggest disappointment. But I still wish other... Animal Boys did return and stuff like that. But otherwise, Tropical Freeze is a fantastic, nice, chill 2D platformer. Usually play this around the holidays. I mean, the name speaks to itself. So, yeah. Also, this got ported to the Switch with a brand new Funky mode, which makes you play as Funky Kong, makes you glide down with his surfboard, and also chill on the spikes like it's nothing. Also can stay underwater for a long time. So, yeah, he's OP. And, yeah, that's it. Oh, yeah, the ending, of course. You still have the same elements from Returns, by the way, collecting puzzle pieces, banana coins, all that stuff. You still have all that stuff, just like your Returns, so, yeah. So, Lord Master Frederick, I believe that's the final boss name. That's who it is. You have to beat him. The whole island is saved. No snow anywhere. After you do some bonus levels, of course. Yes, because there are bonus levels. Why wouldn't there be? Alright, and, yeah, that's every Donkey Kong Country game I've talked about. At the time of this recording now, we are over 8 years, and we're approaching 9 years since the last Donkey Kong game was announced. Outside, I know Tropical Freeze ported to Switch, but that was a 2014-year-old game. That's just ported to the Switch. So it has been a very long time since the last Donkey Kong game actually released. There has been rumors going around about the next Donkey Kong game being developed by the same people who made Mario Odyssey, which very much excites me, but I'm still going to keep expectations low because we don't know if this is real or not. I don't know if it's going to be a 3D Donkey Kong or a 2D Donkey Kong. I honestly can see a 3D Donkey Kong happening, which is why it's taking a bit, which 3D games are definitely take a lot more development than the 2D ones. I'm still going to be fine with the 2D one. I just want something at this point. I will take Barrel Blast 2 if I had to. I just want any Donkey Kong game at this point because it has been way too long. I hope next year changes something because we don't know any Mario games next year. We're probably going to get a new mainline Mario, but I really just want Donkey Kong to finally get some love now. It has been way too long. We need him to make a comeback for real this time. Hopefully, next year will be the time for Donkey Kong. In the meantime, we're just going to keep hearing more and more rumors about this. It's going to be fun. Thanks for watching, everybody. Happy 20th year anniversary to the Donkey Kong Country series. After that happened. Thanks for watching, everybody. What's your favorite Donkey Kong Country game? Let me know in the comments below. Later, folks.